Hi, it's Becky from Lessons by the Lake. Today I want to talk to you about back to school greetings and give you my top 5 favorite greetings to use the first couple weeks of school. So greeting is such an important part of morning meeting. I'll never forget when I was learning about how to do morning meeting my first year of teaching, and I read that every student takes turns greeting each other around the circle. I thought that must take hours, and I couldn't imagine it. But it's actually very quick and it is incredibly impactful. So each student gets greeted with their name by another classmate and get passed around the circle, and each person gets their own special time to be greeted. It really shows the importance of every member of our classroom community. So at the beginning of the year, I like to establish my expectations for greeting with some simple low pressure greetings, like the idea of turning and making eye contact with the person next to you to greet them. That's not always something that comes naturally to our students, and it's good to model it and practice it and really talk about it so they get used to doing that during morning meeting and really any time of the day. So for example, if I was sitting next to someone named Nick, it's my husband's name, so I would turn and say, "Good morning, Nick," and then he would say, "Good morning, Becky," and then he would pass it to the next person. And it would continue like this around the circle. So you're greeting the person next to you, they're reciprocating it back to you, and then they're passing it on. So if you've watched some of my other videos or read about morning meeting, I usually let students skip during sharing if they feel uncomfortable. I do not let them skip during greeting because it's such an important part of the day for them to be greeted by a classmate and for them to put in the effort to greet someone else, that I think it's really important that they're part of that. Also, students that tend to skip sharing don't seem to mind being part of greeting and speaking in front of the class, so I have not had a problem with that. So let me tell you my top 5 favorite greetings for back to school. There are so many to pick from, which is amazing, but it makes it hard to narrow down which fit the best for the first week of school. So the one I like to do on the first day, which would be especially good this year, is to wave. Very simple. Student just looks at the person next to them, waves and says good morning. They wave back, reciprocate it, and it's passed on. This is also a very good time during the wave greeting for the other students in the circle to practice tracking the greeting. They should be looking at whoever's talking and with their eyes and their body follow the greeting around the circle as each person is greeted until it makes it all the way around. So usually the first day, you just wave and say good morning and the name of the person next to them. So the first few days of school, they may not know each other's names. So I always make sure before we start the greeting that they have an opportunity to turn to either side of them and make sure that they know their name. We also talk about that if they forget by the time it gets to them, it's okay, we're all still learning. Just stop and say, "I'm sorry, I forgot your name, what is it again?" And then they're able to say their greeting. So another one I like for the beginning of the year is a thumbs up greeting. So the students say, "Have a great day, Nick." Then they would say, "Thanks, have a great day, Becky, back to you." And it would go around the circle. Very simple. So these are from my year-round pack. I also have more specific greetings that I made for back to school in September that fit fall themes and really focus on getting to know each other. Like one of my favorites is cross circle category, or maybe this year it's cross Zoom category, depending on what's going on at your school. So the student whose turn it is to start, they look around the circle and they see someone that they have something in common with. Maybe they like their shoes, maybe they have the same color shirt. They find something that makes them connect to that person. They walk over to them and they say good morning and their name, and then they walk back. So now, since it's not going around the circle, the person who they walk to, it's their turn next. So then after reciprocating the greeting and the person goes back to their spot, it's their turn to choose who they want to walk to. So I like these kinds of greetings that you're going around the room, because maybe they're not necessarily talking with who they sit next to, because if students can pick their seats, they might sit next to the same people every day. So it's nice to get them to move around the room and talk to someone else. If you're doing this on Zoom, maybe they look at each other's videos and they see that they have the same color shirt on, or they just choose to say hi to that person that morning. So an important thing when you're not going in a set order like around the circle is that after a student's had a chance to greet someone else and be greeted, they need a signal to show that. So I always have my students cross their arms so then they can tell that we all can tell that they've been greeted. because we need to make sure that everyone gets a turn. And that's a fair way when they're picking someone that I don't need to keep interjecting and saying, oh, they already had a turn, pick someone who didn't have a turn. They know to look around the circle and see who doesn't have their arms crossed. So another one of my favorite greetings is breakfast bowls. So that it tells you a little something about them. They mime either holding a bowl or a plate, whatever their favorite breakfast food is, and they can pretend to eat it if they want to, but when they turn to the person next to them, it would look like this. Good morning, Nick. Do you want some pancakes? And then he would say, good morning, Becky, either yes or no. Then, would you like some waffles? Then I can answer yes or no, and then it passes it on. So you're asking questions back and forth, but you're also sharing a little something about yourself. You learn what your favorite breakfast foods are. It's getting them to interact a little bit more, but still following the basic turning and greeting and sitting around the circle that we're trying to establish as that routine. So my fifth favorite greeting is robot. So morning meeting can be an amazing time to let the kids be their silly natural selves, but in an appropriate way. So robot is a good introduction to that. So students move like a robot, they can talk like a robot, and they're just saying good morning with the student's name next to them. But some of the shyer students are able to simply do this while they say good morning, and that's not too much pressure. But some of the more outgoing students that are ready to take that next step with their classmates, they can be very silly with how they want to be a robot. So it starts to introduce that, and it's a good opportunity for you to talk about self-control and laughing with each other, not at each other, and how it's a safe place to be silly, but we also still need to be respectful of each other and the idea of sharing the greeting. So there are a lot of greetings for you to pick from. These are my top 5 for back to school. If I can help you at all in planning your first few weeks, let me know. I'm happy to talk to you about it, see what fits your interests, your students' ability and their grade level, and we can decide what greetings will work best for your kids. I'll link to my year-round cards and my back-to-school cards in the description if you want to check them out. I also have a lot of information and some freebies on my blog if you want to look at that. Morning meeting can be overwhelming to plan. There's a lot of parts to it, and you need to think about the social and emotional development of your students and then try and have the different parts match it. So if that feels like a lot, but you want to try morning meeting, I have something I call morning meeting 40 weeks, and I have the whole year planned for you. It's in a PowerPoint and Google Slides, and it has the greeting, it has sharing options, it has the activity, and a message template for the entire year. And it's thoughtfully planned out so that the amount of risk and the comfortability that your students should have, it increases as the year goes on. So you know that where they're getting to is where they should be in the year so far. So I'll link that below if you want to check that out too, because doing morning meeting is an amazing thing, and I want to help you do it. I want to help you have those memorable times with your students. So let me plan it for you. Use mine and let me know anything else that I can do to help you. Thanks for stopping by.